Once again, welcome everyone. This is the final discussion in this two-day workshop. And the idea is to ask people involved in reconstruction efforts in Albania and Croatia and see what are the issues that you're facing. I know there are many. And the simple answer is nothing works. Everything is wrong. But let's try to dissect these issues and see how we could improve reconstruction efforts in the future, if God forbid we have similar earthquakes. So Markel, can you start please and tell us something about what's happening now in Albania and what's happening after the earthquake?
You mentioned previously to start with 21 September earthquake, and yes, the earthquake surprised us, let's say. So at the beginning they started with, I'm talking shortly about this 21 September earthquake because it is Construction Institute has been selected to be the main central point for this recovery process, even in September earthquake and after that also in November earthquake. And the first one, they fast and says that by filling the form, mostly do not have so much damages. So the assessment is done rapidly, but as we all know, not in proper way. So they have, until I believe that 10 or 50 days at the end, that says that yes, now we can go safely and nothing happens. And after that, happens again 2 months in November now, and they started from the beginning. Again, we didn't use that period of time in order to prepare some documents, and to use them. So again, we didn't have such a form to fill and to go to have this rapid assessment. So we needed also 15 days after the earthquake to the first formula to fill in the field. And that is a delay because some information we got it even by handwriting. And that is the main point, that the information gathered in the Durs earthquake, it is not so, how to say it, properly to use because maybe some disruptions are going further. And that is at the beginning, that even the intervention to the building, and thanks all teams that came there to help us, because even that procedure how to save people has some difficulties. So we need to improve even in that direction. And we improved going on to the process. So that is regarding to the rapid intervention during the earthquake. After that, having that damaged data sets, the government started to implement it recovery. So, but even that we have such delay. In most of cases, in areas with no such damages like Tirana or Leja, they have put efforts, too much efforts, but not having too much damages, but the local government asked and they gone there. Meanwhile, in areas like Durs, even because the damages are higher, the government stopped and not going directly to intervene.
And do you know why? What was the reason for this mismatch?
I believe that it is related, how to say, investigation process has been there, but not so quick to intervene, because I believe, that is my opinion, that they need to intervene properly in those areas. So that is the basic points. But seeing from today, even in the case, the procedure, it has not been so correctly for one typology of building, from my opinion, damage severity 3, because they decided to intervene in those buildings directly for repairing, not for to follow such a strict procedure. And for the most critical building, for me, like DS3 because we are sure for DS4 and let's say sure for DS1 and DS2. But for the DS3 they follow procedure giving money. Here is something else because even that it was for me somehow not followed as it is necessary, because on buildings, having multi-story buildings, having services in lower floors, first or ground floors, without insurance, the government doesn't give money because they have to have insurance. But those are the main critical floors of the building, so even that has been a, let's say, a critical point. But most important for me is the panic affected all the decisions. People, even after earthquake, but also during all the procedure of intervention, they reacting, increasing artificially, in many cases damages, so increasing also the time of intervention. In some cases that it has been not necessary. Even some assessment has been turned back, and we have been even twice or third time in the same building to have an assessment because of this unclarity. And from technical point of view, unfortunately, we didn't have previously such technical documents for assessment and retrofitting, and that also that it has been missing part that for the process to be, let's say, better. That is somehow it.
So basically data collection and preparedness of documents before the earthquake would help you, and also you said this reluctancy to repair DS3 buildings, which were often...
The problem is that we saw it because even experts did mistake during collecting data. I remember that previous that we have been together there, and one of the buildings, even for us, has been different of what we thought. So it is not so easy. You need to have a database with the typology of the building, and that maybe, I don't believe it can be within a census, but we need the technical census. And after that, if we have them and train the teams to make it, it will be much better. But the reaction with engineers don't knowing the typology of the building, it's, for me, it has been resulted in huge uncertainties of the quality of the data.
So this is the same issue like for exposure modeling, where you don't know what the buildings are actually made of. And Josip, can you share your experience?
Okay, I will try to add. In Croatia, we also had a problem with damage assessment process, but it was led by volunteers, and we managed to make education in process and controlling body. And in general, on the end, I think there are big numbers, 75,000 assessments in both earthquakes. And I think in general, these assessments are pretty okay, regarding to all situation, because Markel said before earthquake we didn't have any system, even forms. We created forms on Italy Motivation Matilda project, and it's a general problem in the reconstruction process, recovery process, because like I said at the beginning, it surprises everybody. But it shouldn't. All seismic risk assessments are screaming that we are endangered, that's unacceptable risk. We had earthquakes in, small in Stone 20 years ago, in 1908. And we had a recovery process after war, and all that procedures did not implement it in the system. And after earthquake, nobody knows what to do. Nobody. Even we got a law after Zagreb, 6 months after Zagreb. law for the reconstruction process that say everything about preparation for some that kind of.
But did you have repairs in this 6 months period?
No.
No, so there was a 6 month delay in the start of the repairs.
Yes.
Just because of the law.
The problem was, I talked yesterday, problem was these Zagreb earthquake damaged mostly these traditional buildings. Traditional buildings in the block aggregates, and we have very few engineers with experience on that kind of design of that kind of buildings. And in this period, 6 months, only few buildings which started before earthquake reconstruction process have little adaptation and continued process. But I say yes, I was talking yesterday about this level of safety. I would say it's very hard to design these 120 years old traditional buildings to Europe, and pretty much everything was paused 6 months in Zagreb.
Want to add something?
Yeah, following, because even that is a point that in Albania we immediately after the earthquake, I believe 15 January 2020, we adopted procedure for assessment and fitting of airport A3. But one of the crucial points there is that there is no specification which is the level that we are going to protect existing buildings. So it's a missing part for me in Eurocode. For example, in Italian norm has decided a different level of protection for existing building. And getting that as it is written in Eurocode, of course, for that reason, even many buildings are reconstructed, rebuilt in Albania. So the necessary amount of money for retrofitting exceeds 70%, that is the amount that we have, and then they are going to pull up the building and after that to reconstruct.
Yeah. And what about the long-term reconstruction? So what you mentioned was the immediate, like 6 months or a year after the earthquake. What about the state now? What's happening now with the reconstruction?
Okay, it's difficult. difficult. We are in Croatia. Okay, money is the problem, and government. Just some big picture. Government promised to citizens that she will finance construction part of the building, not just strengthening of the building. That we forever.
Of damaged buildings or all
Of damage.
Okay.
Yeah, that's another problem. And in this period, 1 year after earthquake, and now we had Petrina earthquake, and this period prolonged for Solidarity Fund. And all our capacities are focused on that money. You know, we want to spend as much as we can, but we are shooting in our self-feet, you know, because we made procedures so complicated with lots of papers, administration. Okay, I understand that because we have the Balkan issue of, how to say, we are afraid not that somebody will steal that money for corruption. Okay, in general, I'm focused because they are recording. My government.
We can beat you if you say something.
Okay, in general, we are afraid of corruption, and we trying to specify every step, and that results in so many administration, and this is so slow, you know, because we are lack of documentation, taking projects, designs, everything, and that's what is now slowing the process, you know, lack of engineers. Okay, construction firms are trying to reach workers from Asia, from everything. This Balkan area is exhausted. You know, we we are trying to get anybody for this process. And in general, I'm skipping to the topics, but on one side we have problem with traditional structure designs, we have problem with workers, and we have problem with administration. And in some, we have problem with reconstruction process. And it's going really, really slow.
Okay.
I believe we have been faster, but it's not that I wish.
So, I mean, do you have any comments on what was said here? Is there, Markel, was that something?
So I have one question. If you can give a comment about the state of preparedness in both cases now. So because you had two earthquakes, let's say September, November, you had Zagreb and Petra, and as I understood in both cases, first, you were not prepared, as we are also. So in this direction, are you now prepared for the new earthquake that would happen, for example, in autumn? And the second, more specific, but let's hope not. And for example, more specific, in both cases, you didn't have prepared protocols and forms for, let's say, damage assessment. Now, at least in that state, are you ready for the next one? So first part of the question was generally, are you more prepared, and the second one is this specific, at least for the form.
Are you asking me or government?
You can say as an expert, let's say, from the process.
Okay, we have some kind of experience. After Zagreb earthquake, first 2 days we were programming app for mobile phone, and we have a GIS map prepared. And after Petra earthquake, we made another step forward. We improved that app, and some procedures are well known, but they are not official. We still don't have official procedures. And this Croatian Center for Earthquake Engineering is trying to push that. We gathered really all forces in Croatia, all faculties, Osijek, Rijeka, Split, all chambers, architectural, civil engineer, geodet, everybody, all other NGOs, everybody, just to put all knowledge on one place and push the procedures inside the government. Okay, I understand this after earthquake time, they are so exhausted with so many different issues, COVID, earthquake. We had elections after Zagreb earthquake, and it's so complicated. But I don't know if we answer to your question. We will go on the field again, but real procedures are not implemented in the system. You know.
That means that you would know what to do because of the knowledge and experience, and there are some procedures developed, but they are not officially stated by. Okay.
15 years, nothing will.
And Mark, in your case?
And your case?
It's almost the same, because yes, we have a procedure now how to make this rapid assessment, let's say, but and even a procedure to follow for assessment. I'm talking about technically because the procedure is much more complicated. So to give the answer, but those procedures are too complicated to apply. So what is my opinion now that I see from a distant time, that retrofitting process is too complicated, and it's difficult to assess even by the authorities. So you give some recommendation there, and designers and reviewers doesn't fully apply those standards, and that is a problem because we don't know the quality. Coming back to the last one regarding to what we are going to do, I believe that okay, it will be much more better, but not as a system. I'm repeating the same thing, but it is that we still are going to react by engineering opinion based on strict rules. Fortunately, now they are going to follow a procedure of having this risk reduction procedure within following the law, National Agency of Civil Protection, but we are expecting to go faster because we have one in 2003 and we forgot it for 20 years. They are starting now, but I believe that maybe it will go faster.
For example, I remember the story that when we were there, you said that there were different, let's say, teams from different areas, also from the world, that were helping at the beginning, at the very beginning for the damage assessment, and that you had some buildings and areas to reassess again because the standards were completely different, if I remember well, you were saying that. But that's for me a question. So now, do you have consensus about, okay, this is the form and the procedure, at least for the damage assessment, that everyone agrees this is what will be applied? Because that was not the case.
In the period, too much assessment has been done from 26, 27 until 10 December. Everyone is going to fulfill their own assessment form. But it is 15 days, it's not a short time after the earthquake. There are real quite days. So, and after that, they put a procedure, putting the forms. It is approved with the technical committee, and we need to follow
So
it.
now this is the procedure that you have.
Yes,
Because,
it's a
for
procedure,
example,
but
we don't have that at the moment.
unfortunately, the results of the procedure are not so, we don't have even now all the results. I'm not talking about the results as some tables, we have them. PDA report have it, but to work with them, it's another thing, and to assess and to understand much better where we're going.
Okay, thank you.
So basically the first step, sorry.
I have just one question. So do you think, both of you, that whether it would help if in both countries there had been established government agency like FEMA exists in the US, which is in charge of whatever disaster comes. I mean, it could be a civil protection, I'm not sure how it would be called, it does not matter, but which has the whole framework of how to react after a disaster. It could be a flood, like there was Katrina, there is an earthquake, and they have the system in place. So it's not a responsibility. They have engineers who are on board, but they're not. It's not engineers who decide. They consult. They have pulled together. Because I know I worked, for example, besides US, which they exist, but for example, in World Bank projects, I worked out in India after the 1993 earthquake, and the first thing the World Bank asked was to form under government of Maharashtra, which is like a part of India, but like a state in India, to form that kind of government department which was in charge, and who had consultants who were responsible for doing this and that. But there was a government system of civil servants who had to manage the whole process. Because it was like 2,000 villages there. It's a huge area that was in charge, but it worked. I mean, it took 5 years, but it was going on and made progress. So, what is that the key? Because it's like a framework for doing it. Would that help?
I think so. I mentioned these two previous reconstruction processes. We had the Ministry of Reconstruction, and that worked okay. After these earthquakes, these all procedures or decision makers are inside the Ministry of Construction and Urban Planning. And inside the ministry, there are very few real experts in the field, very few engineers. This is Ministry of Construction, but very few engineers. And very few experts in the field of earth engineering. No, I dare to say in front of camera. No. I'm joking. But it's inside Croatia, it's okay, every state has different system. Firefighters NGO in Croatia. We have mountain rescue also. And this civil protection mechanism is lying on that kind of
Organizations.
yeah, Red Cross also. They are not part of the institution, it's a group of citizens trying to make things better. But also this our operations center, it also is in that direction. We just try to fit in the system what we have. But I agree, we need for earthquakes, for future earthquakes, real institution to cover all the problems, because knowledge and right decisions in right time, very fast, are crucial in this crisis time. We have some kind of councils, advisory boards after earthquake. We gathered with government gathered together, but they are very slow. All people are we on the field, and these guys are doing our jobs, regular jobs, and this all is extra, you know, and you can focus on it. You can, and that's the problem. You have a real crisis on the field, but you are doing it after job.
Your hobby.
Any other comments, please?
I have a slightly different question, but after the Zagreb earthquake, because I understand that there's a lot of damaged heritage buildings, how is the situation with not rebuilding but repairing them in terms of, let's say, architectural point of view, like decorations, internal, yeah, because you know, 100 years or 150 years ago there was quite a different situation with workmanship and number of people that were in construction at all, and most of this is manual work. This is one thing. And also regarding heritage buildings, if you own a heritage building that was damaged, for example, are you obliged to repair it completely by yourself, or you can have some grants from the government? Because the government usually requires you to keep it in the same shape forever, basically.
Yeah, I didn't mention that problem, but we had serious problem. I mentioned yesterday one slide shortly, but we had before quite serious issues between the structural engineers and conservator architects in that traditional part of the Zagreb. And after earthquake, they were not so strict, because before earthquake, structural engineer couldn't do nothing.
Yep.
It's totally strict. After earthquake, everybody realized what are real problems. But nowadays we are trying to iterate. You know, we got really strict rules, and now we are trying to find the middle in that process. But also, it depends on the expert. You know, even between conservators, they have different point of views of some, what to preserve or not preserve. And your second question, there is no special help about from government to reconstruct these buildings, but except that I mentioned before, inside new law of reconstruction. Although I think only facade have some help. I don't know how, but only for facade there's some little help too.
But not for inside, for example, like in the foyer of this beautiful faculty here? No. Okay, so if you don't mind, just one remark, something similar, but because we have an earthquake in Pernik 10 years ago, exactly 10 years ago, 26th of May, I think, 2012. So 5.6, not much real heavy damage, no collapse building, etc., but damage among many buildings, maybe more than 10,000. So after we had this problem, that really a lack of insurance, And a lot of people that was especially from the older generation, they remember previous earthquakes during communist time when the government was, in order to show that they care about the people, they completely rebuilt the areas. Maybe slow, but they rebuilt. In that case, the government only granted some minimum money, mostly if you are for relocation or for helping to demolish if your building is unstable. But after this, they made new legislation, and I'll give this as a very bad example of government attitude. Currently, we're in political crisis in Bulgaria, so I don't care about the camera. But basically, after they saw how many people want grants or support, and the government didn't want really to give that so much money, they made a legislation that basically, okay, saying, okay, you can ask for help, and we will help you with significant percent of money. But in order to get the help, you first need to own the property, and to don't have any deposits, to be a very low income, and basically people with such income level, they don't own property. And even if they own property, and they won't have their their own money to cover this 25 or 30% that the government won't cover. So it's basically saying, okay, we're willing to help, but we won't help almost anybody. Because also they had requirements to have the building being legally constructed without any alterations, without any illegal modifications, etc., which is also not the case in almost all of the damaged buildings. Not only in Bulgaria, I think in most of the Balkan countries.
I can add this last law for reconstruction wrote to reconstruct this building in Petrinja area with full amount of money for construction, but only for legally made houses.
Yeah.
And the result is that nobody is going to experience construction. But they changed that law because in Croatia, in Zagreb, it's 100,000 application for legalization. In Croatia, it's close to me. That's a real specific issue, even for risk assessment.
This is like maybe around 1/3 of all buildings.
Okay, maybe some legalization is related to the balcony or something like that, not really all building, but it's so many.
Same in Bulgaria.
I wanted to add something about cultural heritage, because that is a really mess. You will need to deal with restoration, so it's a problem that experts are going to fight each other. But and it's a problem because the process is going to be delayed, and we are not going to what to do in those cases. So it's difficult. We have some really good work done in Albania in some cases, and they are finished, but the others are still is going on a process. I'm going to share my experience because it has been
heritage or
heritage. It has been more than six months to debate with architects what to do. But the problem is that from our side, we saw, because that building that I'm talking has been repaired after 69 earthquake, because 79, because earthquake of 67 as well as earthquake of 79, both earthquakes added some damage to the building. And they put there some strengthening, but too few. All the process of restoration of those buildings is controlled by architects. So, and in this time, they faced with such structural intervention that they doesn't really like. But that is it is not related to some other things that the government or our institution can help the process, but it is a fighting between experts. That is a problem, and is going to further. And for the support, yes, we have some support even for design and intervention, both from UNOPS and from American embassy. That they put some efforts at the beginning to use.
Is it for heritage? You're talking
Yeah,
about
heritage.
support for heritage, financial support of heritage. Is it under UNESCO protection or just the recognized as heritage?
No,
buildings in our-
there are some areas, but in this case, those are cultural heritage sites or buildings, but not under UNESCO.
Just national heritage.
Some of them maybe, I'm not so sure to ask for that, to answer that.
Cool.
Well, like at some point I want to add up to, FEMA, which is Federal Emergency Management Agency in the United States, and how they handle disasters. What's good about it is it's kind of very much independent from government. The only thing that the government does is if they approve the budget, and then this agency manages the recovery process. And I find it very, very good because in many of the disasters, whether it's flood, fires, earthquakes, they have very good protocols on how to do rapid inspection, and then also they train people prior to those events. So they're certified engineers, and only if you're certified you can go and do rapid inspection. And they have certified detailed inspectors who know what to do, because you can be an engineer and you can go to the site, but what is it that you're looking for, right? So they train them well on how once they go into the building, what is it that you're looking for, right? And that helps the whole process. So when I was studying the Northridge 1994 earthquake, which is a long time ago, I was really impressed with the speed at which the city recovered. And it was a very, very large earthquake. But it's just because of the whole structure around that supports the recovery process and make it recover so quickly. And another interesting thing is, like, all Americans, they kind of give the pledge to the country that in case of any disaster, they're going to volunteer and help. So if you're an engineer, you're obliged to volunteer in recovery. So all engineering companies, as I talked with engineers, they were telling me that everybody works 24/7. All people who are on permits, so they just change their schedules, they change their work hours, and then very quickly they figured out how to, work towards recovery, and very quickly, So, like, there are so many very good reports and case studies that explain how they did it. So I feel like we all can learn a lot from that.
Let me add something about this national, because fortunately, we changed the law in 2019, 3 months previous to earthquake, and law for civil protection. So we have
Will not change.
the National Agency for Civil Protection, but they got us. There is nothing they can do for 3 months because it's abated with central units, National Agency for Civil Protection, and there has been no time to follow some procedure even for them. So, hoping that they are going to react now within all natural hazards included to the.
So this sounds like FEMA.
Yeah, it's maybe generally because we are talking for him is totally another thing. I believe. Yeah. But
So,
formally we have some information.
any other comments? Or do they?
I wanted just to ask Vesna for clarification. Does FEMA actually gives funds to damage, they give funds.
Yeah. So no, it's not FEMA who gives, it's like the government who provides budget, who they approve. They evaluate the amount of damage, and they know exactly how many people have insurance, and it's about 16% of people who have earthquake insurance. But what are you going to do with all these people that don't have the roof, right, over their head? So you have to provide it for them. So then the government, somebody would evaluate the cost of recovery. It's going to go through the government, the budget is going to be approved, and then that money goes to FEMA to distribute to people to help the recovery, right? So that's the process of how it goes.
But FEMA gathers, let's say, or hires the people who are working in FEMA. They are, let's say, administrative persons who are subcontracting the experts in the field of hurricanes, earthquakes, when the hazard happens, right?
Yeah.
So they are, let's say, doing really this project management
Yeah,
in
they're
the field
managing,
of.
that's what they're called, they're managing
They're-
disasters. And they have all these like policies on preparedness for disaster. So they have like exercises, like even my kids in school, they have earthquake drills, fire drills, terrorist attack drills all the time.
That's organized by FEMA.
So
Or they're putting
teachers are,
couches.
so it's a very, very nicely organized, the whole structure from the top to the bottom, where teachers have to be trained, all teachers have to be trained so that they can do these exercises with kids regularly. And then in universities too, we have the same thing. We have like frequent exercises, locking in place, terrorist attack is happening, or whatever it is, but it's not that, like, let's say I'm a professor, I don't know anything about any of this. Like, I wouldn't be able to lead, but I know how to follow, like all the signs, all the alarms, all everything. So if something happens, they know what I'm supposed to be doing and how to follow the instructions. But there are people in charge at the university who's going to tell you what to do, right? Who are trained to do that.
By FEMA.
FEMA defines the protocol.
FEMA defines protocol how to train it, but at the national level, everybody is trained at every level, right?
So let's bring this to a close, and both of our speakers are going to share what they think is important for the future. So what are the most important lessons learned we can implement, hopefully, and increase our resilience to earthquakes? So who wants to start?
Hope this is not stand up for. We are talking, everybody's laughing. Okay. I have a few notes. One of them, what was crucial for us in this damage assessment process, and now what Ivan is doing on the field, is database, complete ultimate database, what covers from damage assessment and later on all procedures in GIS related, and that was a huge problem inside during these post-earthquake activities, and nowadays also. I have to mention somebody applied for reconstruction, and this paper somewhere, and in the same building, neighbor also applied for reconstruction. It's total chaos. Ultimate database is crucial for future earthquakes. When engineer come in the field, that you know what is the structure, get some designs or something like that. Also, implementation of all these procedures, what we learned, what we have experienced, and especially that if next earthquake happens, that everybody knows what to do. Even if I am a citizen with a damaged house, okay, I can immediately, day after, do some works on my house and government will pay. I have to be sure that I can do that, and that will be definitely speed up all the reconstruction process. Training, education, even Svetlana helped us to educate this larger group of engineers. We really pushed every 22nd of the month. We gathered experts from the world and trying to establish wider expert community to be ready for reconstruction. And at the end, in this area, maybe we don't like procedures. We had discussion in Austria, one Austrian friend. They have everything in procedures, and when something flipped out, they don't know what to do. In Croatia, we don't have procedures, but we are really, really good in improvisation in terrible times. But truth is in the middle. You have to have this box, but improvisation and this willing to help on the field, that was really amazing. What I like to watch on the field, and I think we have to cherish this talent for improvisation, but in some strict way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josip, because most of what he says I totally agree, because it's almost the same. But my crucial point is that it's better after the earthquake, we learned a lot of information that we don't have for data, but we can collect. For example, for new buildings, when they are going to apply for permit, some data can be registered somewhere in order that for future assessment or information they have everything there. So a database for each building can be for new. I'm not talking for existing one. But the best thing is better to prevent than cure. That we need to assess and how to go to that. So awareness, the panic for me, it has been one of the most crucial points after the earthquake. And to manage it, it's a problem. You need to improve the knowledge of the people, starting from the beginning, education on all levels in order to understand, to deal with that situation, because the most critical part has been aftershock, even aftershocks after the earthquake. People staying outside for 3 or 4 days. So my idea is that you need to make much more efforts in order to improve in the quake situation, not to how to react fast. That is long term. So, but I believe much more in that. It's better to prevent than to cure, because we know that we have it. One day it will come. So that is my general lesson learned, let's say.
Maybe it's enough for our generation.
Thank you very much. I think it was a great discussion, at least for me, and I hope you enjoyed it. So, Svetlana, do you want to conclude?
Yeah,
This today?
very short. It says half an hour, it is going to be half a minute. So thank you very much to everybody. I know quite a few people have left, but overall they were here until maybe a couple of hours, most of the participants. We are really delighted that we on the organizing committee here, Nikola, Marko, Veljko and Željko as the locals. We are really happy that this turned out well. It seems that the feedback is really positive. As far as the content is concerned, I must say that I learned a lot in these 2 days, and I hope that you did too. We heard so many interesting presentations, starting from yesterday morning with this big overview lectures and presentations, then sharing experience, which is really invaluable, and discussions. It was really very lively. And then of course social program, which we tried to put together. We realized that we have done, it was a test of your resilience because it was going on from 9 o'clock in the morning till midnight, and then for some of those after midnight too. And even the dean of civil engineering knows where some people went after midnight. No secrets in this building. So. Anyways, it was a great event. We had 25 people present physically from 8 countries, and 2 who were remotely lecturing. We missed 4 more people who cancelled last minute due to different reasons. But overall it was great mix of different countries, colleagues, friends, and I really hope that we will continue this type of events because I think they're very useful. And regionally we are really not far away, it's easy to travel and visit, and we all enjoy visiting other places. I know there is already a proposal that next year we will go to Skopje for 60th anniversary of their earthquake, and they will organize something like that, and of course to Zagreb as well. So I'm sure we'll continue, but I think all need to, this is simply the conclusion is to be continued, because I think these two lines, red line showing not so resilient and green one resilient, we can understand now at the end. I mean, we knew that at the beginning too, that we are in the red line and working towards the green line, but our path is really long compared to some other parts of the world. But majority of the countries, I think, are in our position, but there are some good examples which we can try to not exactly follow, but adapt to our situation. So thank you for coming, have a safe trip home, and keep in touch. We would like to share we will ask you before we publish anything, but for the presentation we'll send you a message. If you are okay to it, we're not going to use anything that you posted here, we're going to remove it, but if you want to share, then like we did after the SAEE workshop in PDF format, and we'll post on the SUZI web, we'll have a web page, and then same is with the videos. So if you're not comfortable, you let us know and it will not be shared, but we'll try to share it. I think people enjoy watching our YouTube channel, so if you feel like we have sleeping problems, it's good. Think of the presentations and you can take care of it. So anyways, thank you. It was a great pleasure having you all around, and we had lots of fun together. So see you.